Hey, what's up? It's Jim, and I just got back from the new film, The Conjuring. The true life story of paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren, who are most famous for the Amityville Horror House and their paranormal investigation of that. And this was another case that they had done that was considered by the Warrens themselves to be the most terrifying case they had ever seen in their own lives. A family who has just moved into a house, much like Insidious, and are slowly being haunted by the ghosts that are in the house that are slowly possessing their family and following them and attaching them to that family. And the Warrens are there to investigate it and hopefully get it away from them. Now, this is directed by James Wan, who also directed Insidious. And James Wan, who started out his first big film was Saw, the first Saw. He's kind of evolved a lot as a filmmaker since then. He started off as kind of like a schlocky horror director to become like a really refined, good genre director. And this, in the same way as Insidious, is a really good genre haunted house movie in a way that you don't really see a lot from a lot of horror directors. They're not as interested in scares as James Wan is. That seems to be his main concern. He has things set up purposefully so they can be scary later in the film. There's a lot of cheap scares in this, but he's much better at cheap scares than a lot of people are. Everyone's good at least one cheap scare, but James Wan's got at least like 150, especially in this one. Now, this is about 20 times the budget of Insidious, and it's probably a little less creative. This one kind of amps everything up that he did in Insidious. The Conjuring has a lot more scares, and I think it's trying to really bring out the intensity of it. And that's the fun of James Wan's direction, is he wants you to be scared, he wants you to jump up in your seat, he wants it to be suspenseful. He's not as interested in doing kind of just genre conventions that do genre conventions. He makes really well-made, scary, fun, audience-friendly, scary movies. This stuff is just really economical, lean filmmaking, the same way like a Halloween and a Cat People were back in the day. Now, I'm not, anointing him as a king or anything. There are certain problems with this movie. Certainly, the third act, the big conclusion in the third act is kind of just starts out of nowhere. There's a plot line between Ed and Lorraine Warren, who are played by Vera Farmiga and Patrick Wilson, that how they're kind of anointed by God to work together, which is really cheesy and I could really do without, frankly. I don't think it's like the best script in the world or anything, but I think when you think of a genre film, you don't think of perfect scripting and perfect plotting all the time. And this is a very basic kind of genre film. I don't think it's perfect with anything beyond the direction. It's like the real star of the film is James Wan, because that's really what you wanted to see The Conjuring for. You wanted to be scared, you want to jump up in your seat, you want to be surprised. And after you saw the kind of the cool clapping from the trailer behind Lily Taylor, you know what you were getting into. You wanted to see a spooky, scary horror film, so you can jump up and there'll be cheap scares and it'll be fun. And The Conjuring delivers on that, more so than a lot of horror movies do. I think a lot of horror movies have promise that they don't fulfill on, and The Conjuring does that very well. It's definitely one of the better horror films I've seen this year. Now, it's kind of like cheap beer in a lot of ways because it does what it's supposed to do and nothing more, but James Wan's actually having fun with it. I don't think I've seen a horror director have as much fun as James Wan has directing this. I mean, there's a lot of people, in their staging and stuff, they're just kind of having a little bit of fun, but they're basically just going through the motions. But James Wan has a lot of fun doing these suspenseful, spooky, haunted house movies. He's good at, having someone, behind a door to jump out of the audience moment, or having someone behind someone all of a sudden. That sudden scary moment that's going to make the whole audience like jump up and be shocked. Even the toughest people in the audience, I noticed, were scared by some of these very cheap scares. But it's like, I think when you get a director who's inventive enough, a cheap scare can be a lot of fun. That's kind of the thing I like about James Wan, is he's really celebrating what you want about a horror film kind of movie. Teenagers see, and they see because it's fun to be scared. And I think James Wan's someone who gets the fun of being scared. Kind of like directors who get the genre and have fun in that genre. He kind of reminds me of Justin Lin from the Fast and Furious films, and not just because James Wan's going to be doing a Fast and the Furious film, but it's someone who really likes what they're doing. The fun in their direction is reflected on screen, and even though it's kind of vapid, silly entertainment on the surface level, there's a lot of love behind that. It makes it a lot more fun for an audience when you can tell the director's really kind of invested in the genre rather than kind of just going through the motions. I had a good time with it, and I haven't had a good time at a mainstream horror film like this in a long time, and one that kind of surprised me in its own genre-ness. Most of these genre horror films are pretty forgettable, and like I have an okay time, and it's like whatever. But this is kind of one I would probably see again. James Wan's becoming the kind of director who can make a really good genre horror film, and there's a lot of fun in that, and for me it was a lot of fun to watch. So if you have seen The Conjuring and you would like to talk about it, then comment below in the comments and subscribe if you would like to. They're just kind of going through the